could you elaborate on sales promotion expenses? For example, today it is very common for businesses to give pens, diaries, gift hampers and festive hampers and so on to their distributors, agents and so on. Would you comment on eligibility of those ITC as well?
Yeah, so if I were to take the list of questions which you have done, all of this what you have raised are very, very pertinent to the industry at large. I think the choice of questions which you have taken really wonderful. Yeah. So I think I'm sure people who are listening to this podcast will be highly benefited because these are something which are live. I'm sure this kind of the way which we are kind of showcasing, right? I'm sure is something which is very unique. I'm really happy that you brought out this particular aspect. Now on spend which is in the nature of, let's say, diaries or let's say gift hampers, or many times let's say gold coins or silver coins or anything of those nature which are certainly meant to promote the business of the organization. The question is, if I were to kind of pay GST on those and then give it to somebody, is it something which I can kind of take credit? Now here again, I think industry is divided. In my view, I'm again a bad boy as regards industry is concerned. My view is a little different. So I bring about a distinction between use and supply, right? So what is use? Use is something which I use for my business. Like say in terms of a purchase, right? I'm purchasing a pen. I'm using the pen to do my, like in the course of my business, right? I'm using them. So I'm using them for my business activity. So I'm technically using, so therefore I can take credit. When I say supply, so when I buy let's say I may be 10 employees, but I buy 1,000 pens. Certainly you don't need 1,000 pens for a 10 employee organization. So all of that you bought it to give to somebody, right? So you have supplied, you have not charged for it, you have given it to somebody. So I'm not using them, I'm giving it to somebody. So there is a supply. The definition of supply is wide enough to cover certain of these kind of supplies. So supply is all forms. It also includes transfer. It also includes disposal. It also includes where you have kind of given something in the nature of samples or gifts. So wherever I have bought something and given it to my employee or given it to my customers or given it to whoever, I have supplied it. I'm not using it. I have bought it, no doubt. But am I using it? No, I have supplied it. Have I charged for it? I have given it free, right? So I have not charged for it. So I have supplied, but without consideration. Had it been supplied for a consideration, then the purchase credit is eligible. So there is a nexus between purchase and then there is a nexus between output tax. But if I have purchased and I have supplied, but not had a consideration for it, or the consideration is zero, that means I have purchased it and used it for a non-taxable supply, then it becomes something which is restricted under section 17.5, specifically under say 17.5H, which says that any of those which are disposed of by way of samples or gifts are restricted. Even if it is not, let's say, samples or gifts, there are many ways where certain of these transactions are not in the nature of samples and gifts, right? But if it is a supply which is otherwise than like where you don't charge a consideration. So in section 16 and 17, it becomes a supply, but because you have not charged a consideration, it becomes a non-taxable supply. And by virtue of it becoming a non-taxable supply, any purchases connected with that non-taxable supply therefore becomes ineligible. So my view is all of these purchases which are meant to be supplied or given free without consideration certainly is not eligible for credit. But there are a few industry experts or a few people in the industry who have taken a position that it is connected with my business. It is something which, and the definition of business is wide. So, but then that kind of comes in with use, right? The use is a factor. So while I may have purchased it, but the question is after purchase I have supplied it. And supply being made without consideration, there is where the restriction kind of come in. So I become the end consumer, and GST being a value added, right? So long as I have bought it for sale, the value continues. I have bought it not for sale, I become the end consumer, and that is where the credit stops. So wherever you buy certain of these items which are meant to be given free, you become the end consumer and the chain stops there. And therefore the credit on that portion, I believe, should become ineligible.